Well, welcome back to Easing the Reader, a Robert Jordan Wheel of Time reread. I was going to see if there was something else I needed to squeeze in there.
But a Robert Jordan reread. We're just going to go through his diary and stuff.
I think, I was thinking once we're done, we're just going to do all the Conan the Barbarian books too.
Oh yeah. Well, I was thinking we can we'll be extending things when the TV show's out, but I was thinking we can do some special episodes soon where we just do ranking the covers.
Yeah.
Other shenanigans such as that.
We just need to figure out how to get the covers displayed.
We just need to figure out how to do it. That's it.
Well, my name is Chris Mary Haltman, and with me I have David Green, and we're going to talk about the next 8 chapters of the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, it's coming out of
your face.
There we go.
There you go. So, do you have the other book? Do you have any of the other books close by? Because I just envision you with a stack of Robert Jordan books next to you at all times.
I finished. Listen, I finished with one of them, then I put it back on the shelf in its rightful place, and then that's where it stays. I don't have them just scattered around. I have my book close to me because I was just talking about it to someone else on an interview before. So I have that, and I have this one, and I have some notebooks. That's it. Do you want to do an inventory of my desk or something? Is that what you want to do?
I have 2 printouts of stories. That's all I have.
There it is. I've got this one notebook, another notebook. Dragon Reborn. My book, which we'll just give that a little plug. There you go.
There you
go. Got Grogu.
Today I don't actually have any action figures next to me.
That's literally the contents of my desk. Oh, I'm on my phone as well, which is here.
Yeah, one of these.
Invisible because of this filter that we have in the back, but that's it.
Yeah,
it's very exciting start to the podcast. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So first of all, before we start, any news? Do we have any news?
Well, it's maybe because it's actually Wednesday. So let me just check on and see if anything happened. Because if anything did, it would have happened. But we're recording it's 6:15 GMT. So if anything did happen, it would have just happened right now. So let's just.
If you check Twitter, I'll check the only person that I follow.
No, nothing.
Aes Sedai.
Aes Sedai. You don't even follow John or Rebecca or Matt Hatch, who we had on this show.
No, I don't. They'll never come back now.
That's terrible.
That is terrible. Aes Sedai has put something up.
She works for what series, doesn't she?
It doesn't say. It's just a. No, it's just her talking about a mask that she's wearing. So it was. Cool. It's Wednesday. You know what that means.
Yeah, nothing happened.
No, nothing happened. It's been but isn't that? I mean, it's been 2 weeks since we last spoke, and nothing has happened in those 2 weeks.
Well, because the thing that's happening is it's they're coming back to film season 2 imminently. It was supposed to be some point in June. But there's you look at some of the actors and social media, you can see that there's some preparations for them for coming back to Prague. Now you don't have to quarantine if you're an actor now, or you're to do with the film business. You don't have to quarantine when you go there, which was the case. So that's why we knew last time people were having to go there 2 weeks early. You just got a lot shorter and close to the camera there.
I know. I felt like I needed to come in close for this.
And so it might just be this weekend people might just start traveling. The furthest afield is Madeline Madden, who is playing Egwene. She's from Australia, and Zoe Roberts as well, who's playing the Nynaeve. They're both in Australia. or maybe she's in New Zealand, but they're that part of the world anyway. So we would, if they get onto a flight or something, or say they're on a flight like Thursday or Friday, then we can be like, well, they're going to be filming pretty soon. Then I imagine something's going to happen, some big drop of news. It'll be like, you know, casting announcements for season 2. Maybe the trailer for season 1. Like, I think there's going to be. It sounds like a teaser trailer is done. It's been recorded, made. There's been voiceover done for it. Our friend John, I'm saying on some of his videos that he saw contracts for people that did did other language dubs, voiceovers for it, and it was like basically it was going to be coming out around May or June. So, you know, it's it should be soon. So that's what I think it is. I think they're just waiting to they start season 2 filming, and then they'll start ramping it up. Because we're not that far away now. Like, if you're talking you know, most people kind of think now it's going to be around Thanksgiving release. We're only 5 months away.
There's one thing. I mean, now that we have, you know, there's not that much news. There was something that I meant to ask last time when John was here, and John was short on time, and we didn't get to see his handsome bald head at all.
You know, I can just take my glasses off and be John.
You can. You have to talk with a Canadian accent. Can you do that?
Just say a boot.
A boot.
Boot. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's all they say.
I'd love to live in Canada. Anyone's watching, I'm always trying to convince my family to move to Nova Scotia.
I thought you would move to Letterkenny.
In Northern Ireland.
No, and there's a Letterkenny in Canada too.
And it's not even Northern Ireland. It's actually Oh yeah, there's Letterkenny in Canada, isn't there? Yeah. That's in Nova Scotia, isn't it?
It might be. I don't know actually. Didn't we ask John last time? I asked John.
Maybe.
I think so. Well, we'll ask. Anyway, yes. But what I was going to ask, we were talking about, and this thought and this idea came to me in one of the Facebook groups that we're both in, one of the fantasy Facebook groups, where somebody was promoting that he was going to start reading Wheel of Time for the first time. Did you see that?
Possibly.
He said something like,
I've been very busy lately, so
yeah. But he was just like, are they any good? You know, because he's like, and people were just kind of like fantasy shaming him for being such an idiot, I think, in the end. But it made me think, I was like, the one thing that I think is, because I was also thinking about like the prematurity of giving Wheel of Time a second season. I mean, so early, without anything ever, like the mainstream not really knowing anything about it, because all these things that are dropping, that's for us, those who are more or less discussing it in the know about fantasy, but not for the public in general.
Yeah.
It would be like you would drop something about Game of Thrones before anybody even knew what that was, because if anything, Game of Thrones was probably less in the public know than what Wheel of Time is. I mean, we've lived with Wheel of Time longer, but I was just thinking, it's like, is the Wheel of Time actually garnering any new readers? Because I mean, I remember when Wheel of Time when they were still releasing books, and a lot of my friends and people that I knew, talk about it when a new book would come to be released. But I mean, I hear very little talk about Wheel of Time from the younger generations today.
It's hard to say, really, isn't it? I mean, tastes have changed in terms of like how people consume books. So, like, you know, you have Audible, which is huge now. I think it's, you know, for some markets, it's 40% of the revenue is from Audible. So yeah, I mean, it's changed, but I mean, we were just looking before. I don't know if this has been. It's the first time I noticed it. We searched for the Eye of the World on Amazon and renamed it to be book one of Wheel of Time, soon to be a major TV series. I'd not seen that before, but I was looking at the rankings that it's in. It's in like the top. It's in like the 3 different sections that it's in. It's in the top 20 of each one. So it's still like, it's still obviously it's still ticking over. I mean, it's hard to say like these days because I mean, the thing is with a series like this that's so big as well. Like if I'd been in 10 years' time, maybe, probably in 10 years' time, maybe even less, I would just be, my son would be reading my copies. So he wouldn't go out and buy another one.
No.
He'd just be reading the ones I already have, unless he wants to listen to it or however, in 10 years, however else people will be.
Or he just wants to read your David Edding books.
He could well do. I think he would do. Like, I mean, there's no harm in it, in doing it. He could polish those off when he's about 10 years old or something. I think,
probably.
Be able to understand them.
He could probably polish them off pretty soon.
No disrespect to David Eddings or anything like that, but I mean, they're easy to read, like, and they're easy to consume. Like, they're not particularly long books, so yeah. But yeah, that's the thing you have to think about. I mean, it's like Isle of World is 31 years old, so it'll be a generational book where people have it in the house, same as Lord of the Rings. People borrow them off the friends, all that kind of stuff. So it's the same with Harry Potter as well, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think it gets to a point where, unless there is like an adaptation where it brings in a load of new people from the adaptation, that word of mouth kind of thing, where or it becomes a generational thing where people are like, right, you're old enough to read this now, or this is a great book that I have, it's a great series, do you want to lend my copy? I'll borrow my copy. Bad writer. So it's that kind of thing. So and obviously with Wheel of Time, it's these days, post Lord of the Rings, anything that's popular or even slightly popular usually gets an adaptation within a few years, right? Like Game of Thrones, the first book came out in, so Game of Thrones itself came out in 97, 98 or something like that. And within 4 or 5 years, it was sold to HBO, be adapted, right? Harry Potter, the first book came out 97. First film came out 2001.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. Bridget Jones' Diary wasn't that basically a movie even before the book came out?
Yeah. So it has that thing straight away where it's got like the people adopt it as a book, and then it brings in this new audience on top of them straight away. It's only really like when you're talking about the classics like Lord of the Rings, like that was came out in the 50s, late 50s. 40 years, like just a touch over 40 years later, the movies came out. But obviously there was adaptations before that, and that.
Oh yeah, the animated movies from the 70s sometime, right? So 77 maybe.
Yeah, the Basque one, the ones then the Rankin and Bass, the radio adaptations as well would have brought people in. Then the movies. So for the Wheel of Time, like, it's been basically 31 years where it's just been a book. There was one video game, been a couple of comics, but there's been nothing. So it's been that kind of thing where it's been living through people that read books and that would recommend books and all this. So it's not had that resurgence of like a new group coming into it yet, and so this will be its first chance. And so it's been given the second season already, and it's not that unusual. It just seems that it's more unusual because the first season should have been out by now. So they were just working to that timeline of, right, we need to get the second season scripts done in case it gets greenlit and all this kind of stuff. And so it was probably more or less greenlit a long time ago, and it's just not been really announced or anything. But they probably would have announced it a lot sooner. What they like to do, and they do it in the movie thing as well, is to get the first episode out, or the first two, and they go, it's a great success, we've greenlit the second season. And they do the same thing with movies as well. Like, they'll have like the first weekend and it's a success, and they'll say there's a sequel in development now, we've greenlit the sequel. It's that kind of buzz kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is a good thing as well. Like once it kind of moves out to Amazon, saying like trying to get people that are already into the Wheel of Time saying, look at this, the next Game of Thrones is coming out. They were like, we're so confident in it that the second season's already on the way because we're so confident. So yeah, that's it. Like, you know, and I genuinely think that these kind of shows need that second season would always be generally a little bit better because they get a little bit more confident and everything else. The actors get a bit more confident. The writing room gets a little bit more like on top of what they're doing. But also, Either World is probably the hardest one to adapt. Well, saying that, I think 2 and 3 have their issues as well. Like, but because they're just a bit similar in terms of, as we'll see when we start talking about the book now. But in terms of like cinematically adapting Either World, it's difficult because it's just so uncinematic. Not to say that like cool and epic things don't happen, they do. But if you were just to adapt it all from Rand's point of view, it'd be about 4 hours in TV, right? Because it's just all from basically one person's point of view, and like, you know, the reason why like things are longer is like, think of Game of Thrones adaptation is that you're spending scenes with different characters, you're jumping around. Like that bit in season 2 where Jaime Lannister's being escorted back to King's Landing by Brienne of Tarth. That takes practically the whole season for him to do that. If it was just from their point of view, it'd be an episode, right? And that's why, like with season 1 of Game of Thrones, they're having to create a lot of stuff that's happened outside of the POV. So it's stuff that you hear about. So you hear about Legane being captured. You hear about Legane's gentling. That all has to be created. So, so it's not like created as if it's something that never happened, but then they have to create the events of it and the tension and the characters that are interacting with it. They'll probably want to bring in some kind of instead of just having the white cloaks, just these people that pop up on the road every so often. They want to give them some kind of context, so they're going to have to go to you know, various characters that wouldn't have scenes in the Either World and give them scenes for something to do. They're going to have to go to Tarvalon to set that up. That means then you have to take things out as well. That's why the first one is very, very difficult. And once they've done that, it'll be a lot easier, I think, as they go on, because they can see what works and what doesn't work and all that. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it for. I mean, it was mid 2000s, I think, when it was first kind of announced that someone was going to do something with it. Just kept on falling away, just breaking down, and there was sort of like shenanigans and what have you. So yeah, really, we're just like keen to see it. I just can't wait to see this trailer, and I'm just happy that it's happening, and I'm happy that it's going to be different. I know it's going to be different. I think it's going to be vastly different in a lot of ways. Like I think it has to be. And I was talking to John. I was on his channel last week. So we're talking about In Solitude Shadow, and then we're talking about adapting. He was asking like if like someone was adapting my book and how I would feel about it. And with me, like I studied film at university and I've done screenwriting, so I know the challenges of it. I know that it's a very different medium. And for me, as long as the spirit of it is the same, then it's fine. And we'll talk about Lord of the Rings, the movies, as how everyone is like, well, you know, not everyone, but let's say like 95% of the people think that it's a beloved trilogy, right? But they all say it's a great adaptation, but it isn't. Like it's, you know, and well, it is. It's a great adaptation, but it's not a faithful adaptation.
No, absolutely.
And that's what some people kind of mix together. When some people say it's a great adaptation, what they actually mean is it's faithful. Right? When they say I want a good adaptation, they mean I want a faithful adaptation. Lord of the Rings, the movies, especially the Two Towers, isn't faithful whatsoever.
No.
But it has the spirit of the books, and it does a great job. But you go back and watch the Two Towers, and it is like very, very different in a number of ways. And even then, even the characters like Aragorn, his character is his character is still, the spirit of his character is the same as he is in the books, but his actual arc is different, because like in the books he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be the king. That's what I'm here to do. Like I will, spoilers for Lord of the Rings. But he's kind of like, well up for his destiny and what he wants to do. He's like, yeah, this is what I've been doing all my whole life for. I've been a ranger. I've been preparing to, to lead my people and all this kind of stuff. In the films, he doesn't want it.
No.
He's, he's a completely different arc for him, but his character is still the same. He's still like essentially the same person, but he's just, that is, his arc is different.
Well, it's the same. It's the same with Richard Matheson's I Am Legend. And if you look at Will Smith's version of I Am Legend, which is completely different, which is basically Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in a post-apocalyptic world, which is basically all of Will Smith's movies, is Fresh Prince.
Will Smith.
No, I don't. I have nothing against Will Smith. It's just like his acting is always the same.
Yeah,
it's always the same. He always plays the same type of character. But I mean, obviously, you have to look at it. I see Lord of the Rings as being an adaptation of the Ralph Bakshi movie, actually, like a remake of that, because a lot of it follows the same. Obviously, it ends at the Two Towers.
Yeah.
It's not even
because he ran out of money. Like they ran out of money, didn't they? So that's why it's like, so like Gandalf charges at Minas Tirith, and then they won.
They live happily ever after.
I love that. I actually love that cartoon. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, me too.
I love it. But and they did Rankin and Bastard the sequel to it.
I know,
and it's terrible.
I know. We had a movie night at work where we watched Return of the King, and it's like the orcs singing "Where there's a whip, there's a way" is probably some of the best cinematic stuff I've ever seen. No, it's horrible. It's so horrible. But anyway. And then, for if we're going to do shameful plugs, go in on the Guild and listen to me interview Peter Beagle, who wrote the script for Lord of the Rings, the Ralph Bakshi. But it's the same. I think that I Am Legend, Will Smith's I Am Legend, is actually an adaptation of Omega Man.
Yeah.
Not of I Am Legend, the book.
Yeah, a lot of things do that. Like a lot of things will adapt something that's already been adapted, right? Because like it's interesting is the Shining and Doctor Sleep.
Yeah.
And in the films of both. So Stephen King hates Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining because he thinks it just like he thinks it leaves out things that, because I think he said a lot of times that The Shining is one of his like most personal books, and it kind of ignores a lot of the stuff that is important to him, which is fair enough, right? But like and you get some Stephen King diehard fans that are just like, The Shining is a good film, it's a good horror film, but it's not a good adaptation of The Shining. So obviously, then he did his own version, which was a TV.
Yeah, and it's, unfortunately, you might like it. I don't care for it at all.
I don't like it. And then obviously he wrote the sequel, Doctor Sleep, right? But then the film of Doctor Sleep came out, which is, because it's the same studio, it's a sequel of The Shining, the film, Stanley Kubrick one, but it also takes it's also a sequel, it's also an adaptation of the book, which is a sequel to Stephen King's version of it.
Yeah,
but it manages to do it in some kind of weird way where it just marries it all together. I can't remember what my point was now. I think it was just, I remember one.
Adaptations of adaptations. I think you were talking about
adaptations. Yeah. I keep forgetting Peter Beagle wrote the script for
because I mean, I don't know if you've listened to that one, but it's kind of funny because I think, if I remember correctly, it's been years since I listened to my own interview with him, but he was talking about that he had just written a paper about Tolkien, and then somebody asked him if he wanted to write the script, and he's just like, you know what, I don't really know this stuff, so he had to. He just had to do it. But I mean,
it's interesting when you look at all the adaptations, and this is like interesting for Wheel of Time as well. Like, what do you leave out? Like, everyone, and it'd be interesting to, like, obviously it's never going to happen, but it'd be interesting to see Tolkien's thoughts on this, because every single adaptation of Lord of the Rings. Now, this includes the films, the cartoons, the radio adaptations. All of them leave out Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say that. What's up with Tom Bombadil?
Yeah, and there is a fair point for it. And the reason, like, all the filmmakers often say is because it's like there's two reasons. One, it has nothing to do with the plot.
No.
Like, it's nothing to do with it. And second is that it cheapens the impact of the ring, because at the very like kind of start, you come up with this entity that's like, the ring has no power over me whatsoever. And in fact, I can even see people when they're wearing it, right? Well, that was the point that Tolkien was doing it. Tolkien's point was that you have all this strife and war, but sometimes you just need to go and do your own thing. That was his point, right? You have to go and make your own space in the world and enjoy your own existence. That was the point of Tom Bombadil. And that's something that he firmly believed in, right? So that's one of those things with Stephen King and The Shining side of it. It's like, I wonder if he would see that and be like, well, it has to have Tom Bombadil. Because it's so important to him. But then I can see, like, I mean, Peter Jackson like spelled out very clearly once, he was just like, and that's basically what he said. He said it has nothing to do with the rest of the story, and it just cheapened it. Hit, like, especially in the movie, they try and really big up this impact of the ring, even though it's got its own kind of, it's its own entity and it's its own kind of wants and needs. And then if you run into this guy who's just like, yeah, it doesn't bother me whatsoever.
So by that token, we probably won't see the Green Man.
By that Tolkien.
Yes, by that Tolkien, we won't see the Green Man.
I just don't think you'll see the Green Man. Like, I don't think it has that kind of effect the same way as Tom Bombadil. Like, it has nothing to do, but because he has a purpose at the Eye of the World, where it's mainly to just drop exposition.
Exactly, like many of the characters.
I just think, like, with him, it would cost money, a lot of money, to animate him, and he'd be in 2 scenes.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense to do it. It's like giving every Aes Sedai an ageless look to de-age them for everything. Every single scene that they're in, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I know, like, Captain Marvel had Samuel Jackson de-aged for the entire film that he was in it, but that's just one actor for the entire for that. And obviously there's ways of getting around that as well, where they can just like have him from shooting from further away, they can shoot him from the side or from the back of the head, which they obviously did quite a lot of it. Like, there's going to be scenes in the Eye of the World where there's probably going to be like 50, 60, even more, because I'm fairly certain they're going to go to Tarvalon. So there's going to be Aes Sedai everywhere, and obviously Moraine's one of the main characters as well. So, like, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. It's just an expense that doesn't need to be done. There's other ways to get across, like, the Aes Sedai's poise and coolness and difference, than to make them like look like unaged. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. Should we talk about the Dragon Reborn?
No,
just talk about Tom Bombadil some more.
Let's talk about.
I remember. I did one more point of Tom Bombadil. I remember when they were making, because they made minifigures they did a Lord of the Rings role-playing game. I mean, there's been several Lord of the Rings role-playing games, but I think they did more like a type version after the movie came out, and they had Tom Bombadil as a character. So people were hoping that they shot scenes with him, but just left it out of the movie. So when the extended versions came out, they were hoping that he was going to be in it, but he was not.
Well, there's still like rumors of an extended version that they've still got more.
Snyder cut.
Snyder came in and filmed some stuff. Well, that's basically what the Hobbit films were. The Hobbit films were the actual ones that got released were the extended versions, and then the ones that came out of extended versions were what else do we have left? Because, like, the only reason he was able to get the extra time to finish filming the films was like to make it into 3 films, because it was just like, it was a nightmare. Do you ever watch documentaries on them?
Not on the Hobbit.
Man, you should watch it. The documentaries of it, I just like, it's it shows how great of a filmmaker Peter Jackson is, that he managed to make them like semi-entertaining and good in some parts.
Yeah.
Like, because he was just under like immense stress and had like. Do you remember like when Lord of the Rings was being filmed, and it was just like all these pictures of like all these props, and everyone was happy and smiling, and everything was like
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
months in advance. Like literally, like things like Peter Jackson would be on the phone saying, like, "We need these props. Can you get them made today and shipped over because we're filming today?" And it was just like completely different. And there's
Yeah.
bits where it was like they're in just like the dwarves are just in this big studio, and it's just green. There's nothing there. It's just green, green blocks, and he's just like, just run around, and I'll film you, and then we'll just do something, right. And then Andy Serkis was doing second unit um, shooting, which was basically all the kind of like crowd
Yeah.
scene action shots. So they were. This is when it was still going to be 2 films, and they were doing the Battle of Five Armies, and it was just like they were doing the setup, and it was just like, so all the stunt people just fighting our film you and all this kind of stuff. And then he got a phone call from like Peter Jackson saying, "But we're just shutting down that you can all this." And then it shows you Peter Jackson sat on this set, and he's just sat on his own with his head in his hands like this, and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do." And he was just like, "I've literally just been making this up every single day on my own. Like, just getting him, I say, this is what we'll do today." And he's like, "This is too complicated at this point in the film, and I can't do it. I need more time. I need to storyboard stuff, and I need this, this, and this." So like apparently the deal basically was that like Warner Brothers had the cinema space already booked out for 2 films.
Yeah.
If he could delay, and he said no. So he was like, "What if we did 3 films? Could we take a break so I could plan some stuff and come back and do the third one, right?" And they agreed to that. So basically, then they just extended out the first film. The second film they just cobbled together from the stuff that was going to be in the third one and all this kind of stuff. And then that's why the third one is just basically like 2 hours. It's the third one's the shortest film, and it's basically 2 hours of just like an action scene. Well, that's the thing that hopefully Amazon Prime have given.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, and the thing is, I was trying to look up because I was watching Kong versus Godzilla, which I don't recommend for anybody to do, but if you have some time to kill. And I was just like wondering, it's like, what is Peter Jackson doing right now? And he's like not like doing anything.
He's doing the Beatles documentary.
Yeah, the one that's for Disney Plus, right?
Yeah. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
So excited.
Yeah, no, that looks good.
Yeah, that's
but
what doing. But when you say they've got any spare time to kill, no, this is my time to kill. I come and talk to you about Wheel of Time, but obviously we talk about like it's Lord of the Rings. This all the many adaptations. Maybe we could do a show about adaptations at some point.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, that'd be cool. We could talk about Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, we could talk about Shannara.
Yes, we could. We could talk about. Yeah, we'd have to. We could talk about Earthsea. We could talk about.
The Witcher is an interesting one because, like,
yeah,
obviously, I think like most people think it's good, but a lot of people don't like the timeline, how they did it, and they were very, very confused.
But isn't? I mean, I don't know because I haven't played the game. But isn't it basically? I mean, isn't it more? Is it more based on the game than it is the books?
It's based on the books. The games are set after the books.
Oh, okay.
Okay. They're set quite a bit after the books, actually. But basically, with a TV show, it starts off and there is hints if you're paying attention that it's all different timelines. But it's basically like Yennefer's one is. So when you get, have you watched season 1?
No, I have. You know, I'd have to watch The Witcher. I haven't seen it yet.
So say you take the very final scene of season 1, right? There's 3 main characters. There's Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri.
Yeah.
So take the final scene of season 1. First bit that Yennefer is in, so the first episode of season 1, that starts around 80 years before that, and then moves to that point. And then Geralt's first scene is about 60 years before this last scene, then moves to that point. And then Ciri's scenes are like taking place like days before this last scene in the show, and then they move to that point, right? So you have like And you can tell at one point because you have in the first episode you have Yennefer coming across like characters that Geralt's coming across, but they're obviously a lot older in Geralt's storyline, right? Where it was confusing people because nothing comes up to tell people about it. And it really confused people. But it's there, like you just have to listen. But it gets to like I think the third episode, and it just makes it like very, very clear that this is different timelines.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, we could do that, and then you'll have to watch the Dragonlance
Yeah, let's do it.
movie. That was horrible, though. Yeah, we should do it.
Bloody Dungeons and Dragons, Jeremy Irons having great fun.
Yes, and Dungeon Siege in the Name of the King.
Yeah.
And Aragon.
Never read that book. Never read it, never watched the film.
Oh. Isn't Jeremy Irons in it as well?
Yes.
Yes.
I do know that. He's in both of those things.
Poor bastard.
He loves it. He's having so much. I don't know about Aragon, but he's having so much fun in Dungeons and Dragons. He loves every second of it. It does. Yeah, Dragon Reborn. Weird. Robert Jordan he's doing weird things with the structure again in the Dragon Reborn, isn't he? He's because what he seems to be doing this time is let's talk about Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, let's talk about it a little bit.
We're going to talk about 8 chapters, but they're all basically set in the same place except for the first one. So we're doing.
Yeah. Well, the first one is basically the tail end of the parent narrative.
Yeah. So we're doing Wolf Dreams through to Hunters 3. Now, this is what I was going to say. He's doing it in chunks of people's POV now, which is different from what he used to do in the previous 2 books. Obviously, the first book is about 80%. Maybe it's more than that. Actually, it's probably 85% Rand's POV, a little bit of Perrin, a little bit in the Neve. But then it's like and those bits are just dropped in between Rand ones. The Great Hunt jumps between POV quite a bit. It's like maybe
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's what made The Great Hunt such an easy read in a way, and flows well. Here I find myself, especially in this what we read now, I found myself quite bored with the storyline.
Yeah, because the way that he's structuring it is just odd, really, because it's obviously doing it by timeline, which he doesn't really have to do. Like he can do it a different way, I suppose. But he's basically doing like, well, the bits where pairing is happening here, so that's the first 9 chapters, and then it's like, and then we're going to cut then to because he obviously just didn't want to do like Egwene on the road.
No.
For a few months, so it's just like now it's Egwene's turn to tell a bit of the story, but then it's all just like that Avalon and around, and it's like some intriguing stuff that's going on in it. But I think if you were splitting it up between Egwene and Perrin, because they're the 2 main stars of this book, like between the 2 of them, I think they have about 70% of the POVs in this book, and they're the 2 people that are driving it. And if they were just like, there's good stuff that happens in each of these chapters, but it's just all together, and it just needs to be. It needs just like a little bit of time to breathe a little bit, and I think that's the problem with the Dragon Reborn, because I think it picks up the pace very much afterwards. At this point, it really kind of does start picking up the pace, particularly when someone kind of comes back into the story. But at this point, and I think it has a lot to do with the way that it's structured the book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing was, I mean, once I was done with the final chapter, I was struggling to try to remember what actually happened to Perrin in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, for our sake, we probably would have been best if we had read chapter 9 as well, to just kind of end his storyline, because I really don't remember. I was just kind of like, well, what actually did happen to Perrin? And in the scheme of things for us, that's kind of like less interesting, because really what's happening with all the women as they go to Tarvalon, bringing Matt seems to be in some kind of delirium, or he's basically comatose
Yeah.
at this time. And their encounters with they encounter the White Cloaks right in the beginning here.
Yeah, they do.
And the son, Thornhold, and he's pissed at them. Because he's very pissed
that's all you need to say
his
about
dad's
him.
dead.
That's all you have to say about Barnhold. Is just, he's pissed. That's just that's just what he is and what he does. So
They have huge.
We can talk about wolf dreams because there's some interesting stuff. Like there's obviously there's been hints of this in the previous two books, dream sequences and what have you. But this book really goes deeply into the world of dreams.
They dream a lot, or at least Perrin dreams. Well, it's Perrin that dreams a lot in this one here in the beginning. Yeah, and then Egwene does talk about dreams.
Yes.
Later on, towards the end.
Rand's having dreams.
Yeah, and she's kind of
spreading his dreams around the place. So yeah, so Perrin has this like kind of weird dream where he's like sees someone gets killed. He goes to Moraine first, doesn't he, and talks to her about dreams and like says like, you know, can you help block them? And she's like, no, I can't with you. It's part of like basically what you are. And that she has to do it. He has to do it himself. And then so we see someone get killed. Someone gets killed, and he runs into a hallway, and there's a beautiful woman there wearing white and silver. Do you know who that is? Do you have any idea who that is?
I wanted to say that he dreams about the Dark One, but is that at that point, or was that earlier in an earlier chapter?
He's dreamt about him a few times before, hasn't he? He did dream about him. But who do you think the woman is? Do you know?
You know what? When she first, because it's the beautiful woman, right?
Yeah.
Talks about it. I was thinking that it was our favorite Celine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh. At first, I was just like, Celine's making a long-awaited comeback.
Yeah, you
into
missed
the narrative.
Very interesting. And then Hopper's like telling him to get out, and he's like, I don't know how to, so that just Hopper just attacked him. Like, this is how you do it. I just attack you. So he wakes up and his clothes are full of blood, but they're not his blood. It's the guy who was killed.
No.
And then we pop into Rand's head for a little while, and Rand channels a beam of light at a giant black dog and completely destroys it.
I remember thinking of Black Chuck. Black Chuck at that time.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Good old Black Chuck. So then we come to Egwene, and that's where we're going to spend the next 7 chapters basically with Egwene.
Does it continue after this? Like after these 7 chapters, do we continue with them?
Yeah, because there's a few more things that happen at Tavlon and something else that kind of kickstarts the forward motion of the plot.
Is it that somebody steals the horn?
No, the horn. The horn is well, I can't really say for spoilers, but yeah, no, something happens. A few somethings happen, right? So she's having about Rand running away from something, and Anaya's like giving her lessons about dreaming as well, right? And Nani's going about secrets and stuff like that, and about the worried about all this kind of stuff. And Nani saying that she can feel like she's annoyed because she's like, I feel like there should be a storm about to come, but it's not coming, right? Matt has been like unconscious for like 3 days, and then they find pissed Barnhold.
Yeah,
just waiting,
and he wants to stop them, and
yeah.
And doesn't he tells them that he's going to take them to the questioners? Doesn't he? If they don't answer.
Right. And then Elaine comes in and is like, and says like my gaze is going to be like, I know that you lot, and they're like, my gaze isn't. Do you want to check her out? You know, my
Yeah.
gaze, she's not fond of the Tarvalon witches at the moment. And then like the three girls decide to just start like throwing the one power at the White Cloaks.
Yeah, I know. And he's already pissed because they obviously he accuses them for doing all the killing. That his dad is dead. It's their fault. Obviously, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I do all these. If you talk about the whole thing as like a chunk, because then they get into to Tarwalon and the White Tower and everything like that, or that's where they're heading. I think even if this was very slow moving, and I found it dull at times because there's a lot of repetition. Because obviously, I mean, unfortunately, here it seems like, and we talked about that before, is that Robert Jordan seems to find that he has to repeat, each character almost has to repeat what is going on, because they meet each other and they say, I mean, and especially clear towards the end where I think it's Galad and Gawain are like just basically recapping what has happened lately, which we already read about.
And
I think I found, and I was thinking that when I was done with these chapters, it's like, well, I find that the story is less intriguing right now. But I've also found that Robert Jordan has become a better writer in this book. He has a better turn of phrase. There's quite a few passages in and especially in this when they're talking to the queen of the Aes Sedai. I can't remember what they call her.
The Aes Sedai, the Amarillion seat.
They haven't seen. And especially when they have that dialogue between them, when she's angry at them, for instance, and they're talking about stilling them, that they should be still and stuff like that. So there's quite a good, like the dialogue seems more natural, and then there's an event which is actually quite action packed, which has been a little bit different from what we've seen before.
And what is that event?
When when Egwene and Nynaeve are almost murdered.
Yeah, that is true. So so they go and talk to the Queen of the Aes Sedai. Right. And
she's angry.
She's angry at them, and she's like, this is, you're going to be punished by bloody Sherian and all this kind of stuff, and like, but then she's kind of she brings up to date with like the news that's been going on. She's been like, listen, like Rand is the dragon, pretty much. There's been no more false dragons since Thingio.
But can I just
there was two battles going on with false dragons. Then Rand appeared in the sky, and like both fell off the horse and got knocked out.
But just because she talks about the two of them are dead, right? Or one of them is dead.
She says Mazrin Tame was captured and the other false dragon was killed and executed.
Okay, because I was wondering if she was
executed. He was just executed. They didn't kill him and execute him.
First one, then the other. In perfect Oliver Cromwell style. But it was just because I was that maybe was that I was wondering if that was Logain, but that was actually two other dragons. So Logain was not
they
part
already
of
have Logain, don't they?
Yeah.
They already have Logain.
But I was just wondering if they were going to execute him as well, or if he died. He killed himself.
They've gentled him, so he's just knocking around, just being sad, isn't he?
I feel bad for him. As I said, I see a sad Billy Zane in front of me.
Sad Billy Zane. So also, Hurin just is like, I'm going back to Faldara.
Yeah, he has had enough.
He's just gone.
He's just like,
he's gone. So I think there's like, so we're up to this point anyway. They've thought they're going to go and heal Matt. They're saying, yeah, we'll heal him. You're going to get punished, even though you were tricked by a bloody Aes Sedai. Right? And they couldn't really say no because she was commanding them to do all this stuff. It's like, you're going to get punished for being runaways. It's like, well, that's kind of harsh, but fair enough.
But they were only going to get like what, peeled potatoes and washed dishes.
Yeah.
Basically what they're doing.
And so I don't have anything. I have really bad hay fever today. Really bad hay fever again. It was my wife's birthday yesterday, so we got flowers and everything. So it's just like,
So you bought flowers even though you had hay fever. You can.
no, I didn't buy flowers. Other people bought flowers
Oh,
around
other.
the house, and then yeah. So it's not great. So they they go back to so the Egwene is having the same thoughts as me. Like they're like, surely we shouldn't be getting punished because we discovered the black
No.
and Leandrin is one of them. And we also came back with the Heart of the Valir as well. And
Well, I mean, let me interject again about the Black Aja,
mhm.
because they're obviously the bad guys here,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Yeah.
But
what do you think? Do you think that?
no, but I mean, obviously they're the bad. I mean, I know that they're the bad people. I was just thinking, it's like, did the Black Aja exist? Have they always been bad? I mean, is it like Slytherin? You become you're innately kind of evil.
They don't technically exist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if anyone asks an Aes Sedai about the Black Ajar, they'll get offended and they'll say they don't exist because they say that we serve the light and there's no Aes Sedai that are dark friends because they're basically dark friends, right? But obviously it's existed for a long time.
So it's a secret. It's basically a secret organization within their organization.
Yeah. So like Leandrin was a red of the Red Ajar,
Yeah.
but she was a Black Ajar, right? So the ambulance brings them up to speed because she was talking to Varen before, and we saw it from POV, and she's talking to the girls, and she's like, they stole 12 Terangrill, and they killed like 21 people, so to get out of there and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, even though you were tricked into leaving without permission, you're gonna get punished. And it's like, this is really harsh, right?
But isn't it partially also because of the I mean,
well, a ruse, isn't it? It's a plan within a plan within a plan within a plan. That's the Queen of the Aes Sedai for you.
Queenie.
That's the name of this episode, by the way. It has to be Queen of the Aes Sedai. But also as part of the punishment, like, and we're also going to raise you two to accept it because, like, you're really good at being Aes Sedai. It turns out, because of your abilities are greatly.
And then didn't she say that we can't punish you the way we want to because we can't punish people who are going to be accepted? That would look bad.
Yeah, pretty much. So she sends Elaine away, and then she's like, "But Egwene and Nynaeve, I want to talk to you two, so you stay in my office." So this is the thing, like we're just spending a big chunk of time in this office.
Yeah.
Talking to so and like she's a great character, the Queen of the Aes Sedai. I like her a lot, right? But this is basically 3 full chapters where we've just been in this one office talking to her, and it's like there's good stuff in it. There's good information. There's good things. But if this was kind of moving around in between Perrin's storyline, then it would have been a bit more effective, I think, because it's like you want to move the plot forward, you want to move the locations forward. You don't want to have a group of people just sat in an office talking to each other. But this is like the Phantom Menace or all the prequels of Star Wars, where it was just like, we're gonna have a meeting. We're gonna sit in a room and talk, or we're gonna walk down the corridor and talk, or we're gonna go on holocrons and talk, like, you know what I mean? On our communicators, like, and say that the information that's coming across is good, but we need a break from it because it's like,
that's too. And then there's weird chapter breaks because, I mean, obviously there's chapter breaks where maybe, I don't know, some forced chapter breaks. It's like after Nynaeve and Egwene are being, almost assassinated. It's like, let's go to my room, and then that's the next chapter. They're in Nynaeve's room.
Yeah. And like, on this bit, like this chapter, it's quite a short one. Like when she sends Elaine away, it could
Yeah.
literally just go straight into this. And
Yeah.
it's a different, because all she's saying is basically like, I can't trust anyone. I can't trust anyone because I don't know if they're going to be in Black Ajar, but I know I can trust you two because you were captured by them, and you know, other reasons and all that kind of stuff. So like she's doing these punishments because she wants people to think that like she doesn't like them and what have you. But they're gonna be hunting down the Black Ajar because she's the one who's this bit could just come at the end of that last chapter, right? And that'll be one of the things. It's just kind of um a weird like kind of aside.
Yeah.
They get these letters off her as well saying that like, you know, they can do anything with these letters basically, which is great. And then they have to go and work in the bloody kitchens. She's like, don't forget about working in those kitchens.
And then
But
yeah.
your favorite bit happens.
Yes, they start walking,
The
and
Grey Man.
the gray man. Yes, and they just they feel a disturbance in the force. Is that what actually happens? And a bolt passes them. It could have easily gone through both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Nynaeve, who can only basically channel when she's pissed off.
When she's Dane Barnhold.
Yes. she like freezes him in midair.
Yeah.
And then they come around and he's been stabbed already.
He's stabbed in the chest. So the grey man. We've met a grey man before.
Have we?
So do you remember back in the Great Hunt where the Amyrlin comes to Valdara and someone tries to assassinate her?
Was that a grey man?
That was a grey man because they're just so nondescript that you just don't notice them. And like Rand says about like his eyes slid off someone, and you know he looked at someone and just slid away from him or something, and he was the grey man. So yeah, they're trying to kill one of these or maybe even both of them, and like yeah, someone's assassinated the grey man. Sherian gives him a little bit of a.
And then Sherian comes and she's very suspicious. She's sus, as the kids say.
Do you mean that she's suspicious, or that she's like? Do you mean that she's acting suspiciously?
She's acting suspiciously. She's sus.
Yeah, because she doesn't seem to be that curious about who killed the Grey Man. She's just kind of like, this is the Grey Man.
And and Nynaeve suspects that she has a bunch of like circumstantial evidence that something isn't on the level.
Yeah. Because like Nynaeve goes back to, Egwene goes back to get the crossbow boat, doesn't she? And it's gone.
And it's gone. Exactly.
This is some good real like long-term planning from Robert Jordan. This bit comes to fruition in a later book, so we have to remember this.
Thank you. We'll remember that, the Grey Man. And then Nynaeve says, "Let's head to my room," and then we get the final chapter where Galad and Gawain are just like
the boys are back.
They're just chilling in her room.
Yeah. Gawain's thinking about how handsome Galad is.
Isn't Nynaeve and because Nynaeve keeps noticing that. No, Egwene keeps noticing that Nynaeve keeps messing with her dress.
Yes. Yeah.
Whenever they talk, yes, they're just sitting there.
It's just so handsome, and just no one can control themselves around it. No. And Gawain loves Egwene.
Yeah.
Galad is
tries to kiss her hand.
Yeah, it's all threatening to get a little bit hot and heavy, but before it does, to like, listen, you two lads go, because we've almost just got assassinated by some great man. All right, we need to talk about this.
And then there's a lot of reiterating of what has happened before. I do think that these Galad and Gawain could be some fun comedy relief characters in the show.
Oh, really? We'll see what you think about these two a little bit further on down the line.
Okay.
And then at the end of this chapter, just as they're about to because the knee's like, I think I might have to go and heal Matt because
Yeah.
no way, Aes Sedai, she's like Mr. T and flying. Elida walks in. He's like, and that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
That's it. There's a
Yeah.
lot of coming and going between a couple of rooms.
Yeah.
So it's a bit weird because yeah, I can see why you'd say yeah, this sequence is a little bit dull, but I think it's like, I don't think there's like bad things or like dull
No.
things happening in the chapters. It's just the pacing and the structure is just doesn't work for
No.
the story being told.
No. No, I mean, it would have worked if it was like, say, a Somerset Maugham, John le Carré spy novel, where the pace is inherently slow and
Yeah.
basically all people do is talk to each other.
Yeah.
But in this, you're kind of expecting, especially, I guess, from the pace being so quick in The Great Hunt.
Yeah,
You kind of come to a standstill or to a wall here. And as you say, I'm not saying that this is bad. I was saying that I was bored by it. But Robert Jordan has some great there's some great writing in here.
Yeah.
But it could have worked with a little bit of maybe involvement from his editor about where to place things.
I was thinking, yeah, like you think about like what the editors were just gone like, can you not just splice these up a little bit, or maybe just merge a couple of these chapters to have instead of two short ones, one longer one, bring in a different POV.
Put in Galad and Gawain earlier in the story.
Yeah, like even if it wasn't just always Egwene's POV, and they switched it to Elaine's, or they switched it to Nynaeve's, or even Swan Sanchez and the Queen of the Aes Sedai. Just just move the POV around a little bit, just to kind of give it a bit of variety. Because not just to get down on this section of it, but the first part of the book suffers that as well, especially kind of in the you have the big action sequence there with the camp being attacked, but even still, then you think at that point that would be a good place to kind of break from Perrin's POV for a little while, and to go as a break from Perrin, because yeah, that's something you have to bear in mind as well. Like, it's like you want to give the reader a break from that character for a little while, even if it's a character that you like. You want to kind of go and experience someone else's viewpoint and thoughts and experience, so yeah, but I think like I firmly believe we're kind of over the hump of the Dragon Reborn now. I think it gets
It's all downhill from here.
No. Yes, no, it's all kind of uphill from here. But you see,
well, uphill isn't that's the slog.
You want downhill to be downhill sounds bad though. It's like downhill.
Yeah, I know.
Well, smooth sailing from here, I think, is what you want.
Much better.
Yeah,
it's much better. As smooth as doily cart.
As smooth as possible. But yeah, you've got well, we're talking about adapting book 2 and book 3, and like a lot of people talk about, do you do it as one season, or do you do it as like a season and a half or whatever? You can see where the problems lie with this book, because Moraine hasn't been in the book hardly at all. Right, she's just a supporting character with Perrin. She just pops in a few scenes. Lan just pops up. Rand
isn't it?
Right, Matt is just
sleeping.
So you've got like major characters that have got nothing to do, and then when you think about the Great Hunt, Perrin had nothing to do. Matt had nothing to do until the end. Moraine was barely in the book. Lan was barely in the book, right? So you see, if you adapt it as it is, you're going to be running into problems with adaptation, because you don't cast someone like Rosamund Pike with the intention of having her around. I said this somewhere once, and I saw a comment saying, "Oh, Game of Thrones cast Sean Bean." It's like, well, they had the intention of killing Sean Bean in the first season. That's fine. They cast Rosamund Pike for a character who is around for a long time. She's a major character, so you don't cast someone of her caliber and cost. She's an Oscar-winning actress. and be like, you're not going to be really in this season. Right? We got nothing for you to do. So, and you see the story beats again are kind of similar because you got the boys. I got like Perrin and Rand, let's say, are going off on an adventure of sorts. You got the girls that are going back to Tarvalon, which happened in the last book. And they get there and they get a bit of a telling off, which happened in the last book. You get there and there's a bit of intrigue, Black Ajar style intrigue, which happened in the last book. So you have a lot of characters that are doing the same thing twice, essentially.
Yeah.
And when it's in the book, it's not as apparent because it's a book, and like books do follow a structure and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And this one is very much like the end of a beginning trilogy of a series. But as a TV show, it would be basically like if it was doing it season after season, people would be like, this is practically the same events that are happening again. And if you combine them into two and you have it like half a season, it'd be like, why are they going back to the place they started to do the same thing, right? Matt's going to get healed again. So there is like issues there with the adaptation. So I said like Eye of the World is the most difficult. It is in some ways, but there's some like big decisions that need to be made when they do season books 2 and 3. Like it's easier in a way because there's more POVs, and there's more events going on. But it's like, do you merge them, and then where do you merge them? What do you lose? Kind of make it all work a little bit smoother.
Well, I think we got to wind it down. I got to put kids to bed.
That's good to know.
For everybody out there. No, there's some other kids that I.
Is that just some like kind of service that you do for parents?
Yes, in Sweden? That's what I do. The neighborhood kids. I drive around in a white van, pick them up, and put them to bed.
Put them off to sleep. Go to sleep now. If I need to do songs, it's extra. That's It's not part of the introductory package.
The base package, the simple. That's not the standard plan.
The basic plan is I literally just pick them up, place them into the bed, turn off the light.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I do. That'd be great. It would be a great TV show.
Yeah. It would be kind of weird, wouldn't it? But fair enough. Sweden's an exotic place.
It is. At least that's what the Marquis de Sade thought.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so no, it'll be exciting to see what happens. As I said, this wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was slow paced, but in the end, I think there's a good, and especially when you talk about it, you get a lot of different ideas and viewpoints and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So next time we'll talk about 8 new chapters. So as you said, we're over the hump. So at least that's what you've promised. So
yeah.
But yeah, follow us on. Give us a like. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can obviously follow us on YouTube as well. Everything will be in the show notes. Don't forget to pick up In Solitude's Shadow. We'll put that in the show notes as well by our own David Green.
No, that's lovely. Can I get the cover? No.
It does have a cover as well. There.
She's appearing out of nowhere. Just gotta get this sweet spot for this bloody filter.
Where your face is.
No, I don't look either. If I just hold it there, you can see it. It's this there. It's just there.
There you go. There you go.
Technology. But also, if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to this.
Why aren't you subscribing already?
Whatever this is, just subscribe to it.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is.
What do we say?
The Queen of the Aes Sedai. It's like a boat. It's like a boat. It's like one of those river boats in the old West where they used to go and play poker. The Queen of the Aes Sedai, going down the Mississippi and picking up all these people that need to have like $5,000 buy-in to get into the table and everything.
Yep.
Queen of the Aes Sedai. Until the next turn of the wheel.
Right, like that.